the development of new powertrain technologies to the deluge of truck data that informs the service process, the trucking industry is in constant movement. It's an industry built on the cost per mile, and when a truck needs service, it needs to be back on the road as soon as possible. And when truck operators need new iron to haul for their clients, they need the best spec for their application. For a truck sales and service operation like Young Trucks based in Canton, Ohio, that means staying ahead of the latest truck equipment technology while keeping their finger on the pulse of the needs of their heavy-duty customers. Ryan Young, president of Young Trucks, focuses on the investments in his shop operation while growing his roster of heavy-duty truck technicians, driving it forward with a get-it-done attitude. So let's hear his view of the trucking industry, because Ryan Young is a vehicle care rock star. You've been with Young Trucks for about 12 years now. How have you seen the truck industry change over the past 12 years? What have been the biggest changes in your world?
Some of the things that I've seen over the last 12 years is some difference in fuels. So, diesel for sure was the norm. We started getting into at the beginning when I started with the company, getting into natural gas. So liquid and compressed natural gas trucks. So we have quite a few of those today. And now we've even changed to trucks running on battery electric.
Yeah. How and you all have been very progressive in investing in all that. Again, we've seen the bays that are built specifically for natural gas, very specific fire code related things that you have to build structurally there. We've seen the EV bay that has very specific tools and just kind of signage and those kind of things to be safe there. What's your approach for investing in those things? I mean, those are big changes and big investments, not only just monetarily for the business to be able to do it, but also to, we talked about management issues last time, be able to kind of direct your team, technicians, even some of the management folks on the reasons you're doing this and the daily things you have to do. What gives you the confidence that, okay, we're going to go this direction, we're going to invest in being able to service these technologies?
Well, I guess the confidence comes from looking forward and trying to be forward-looking for our customers. So we really like to see what's coming in the future, so we're ready for whatever different technologies they want to use on their vehicles, and different types of propulsion. Our company's been around long enough that I talk about a truck called a diesel truck, and it was a mixture between gas and diesel. So that was actually a thing back in the 50s.
So, oh, really?
So yeah, and there's even biodiesel that's coming out.
Sure.
There's not much of that in our area now, but we do like to try to be forward-looking to see what's coming up, so that we're able to be prepared to work on it and to be able to be the experts in that area to help our customers do what they need to for their businesses.
Right. Well, and again, working in the automotive service and heavy-duty truck service industries, technicians, right? We always talk about the technician shortage. What's your approach for recruiting, maintaining, and really retaining those technicians on your team? So,
and we talk about my time in 12 years. So I will say at the beginning, our managers always wanted to have an A-Tech at all times, and we're always trying to recruit and look for and advertise for, but the shortage of technicians makes it really hard to find those guys, and that was one of the areas of thinking we had to shift. So we need to really grow technicians. So we've worked really hard at we have multiple technicians that we've taken from trade schools that work with us while they're in their trade school also.
Okay.
And have become full technicians, working their way up from C to A.
Okay.
And these guys learn really quick and can be on the level of some of the A-Techs in a period of, really quick period of few years.
Right. So is that kind of an apprentice program? Like, how do you grow them? I mean, is that strictly education, working with specific training materials? Is that working with the more experienced techs in your garage? How does that education and training work?
So they get a lot of really good. There's a really good program near us that does a lot of good work with these kids and teaches them a lot about diesel engines and trucks, and it gives really the classroom work, and then they get to come out to the dealership and see how it really works. I kind of joke it, it's always one thing to learn it in class, it's another thing to see it in person. So we usually pair them up with a lot of our own lease trucks, so it's working on our own vehicles, and they get into doing the PM services. And then as time allows, if we're working on a clutch or brakes or you name it, they'll shadow behind a technician that really knows what they're doing and watch them do it a few times and then get their hands in it the next and then ultimately be able to do it themselves.
That's cool. What about for some of those more experienced technicians? Has the evolution of truck equipment technology, right? Super sophisticated now. I know we've touched on diesel technology after treatments. There's EV now. Natural gas is, honestly, we're seeing a resurgence in interest of natural gas even this year. I've talked more about it this year, I think, than I have in the past 10 years on natural gas altogether. How do you make sure that your top technicians stay top technicians when everything's moving so fast?
So we've got a kind of a mix. I've had historically technicians that don't want to get into the newest and latest and greatest and really have slowed up on doing their training. It seems like a lot of the younger guys are more interested, especially in getting into some of the new technologies like the EVs and the natural gas. But all of our technicians are constantly training all the time. They take classes online from the OEMs and also travel to some of the OEM repair facilities and get their training from the OEM direct.
Yeah, they'll host a good amount of those too. Does the service data play a role? I know I talk a lot about service data in the fleet world. How do you interact with that from like the diagnostics and trouble codes coming off the truck to, I mean, there's remote diagnostics now and that kind of stuff. Do you get into that ecosystem and have to work in there?
So we're definitely a part of that ecosystem, and I mean how it works. It's amazing today, the number of computers on a truck that's monitoring everything that's going on with it. The OEMs have gotten so strong with it. A truck can be going down the road and put up a check light, and that'll send the message back to the OEM, and they can look at it, know what usually that check light means. They can even look ahead to figure out which direction you're heading with GPS, and see if there's a dealership along the way that has the part that they expect to fix it.
Right.
So by the time it gets to us, ideally, we already know what the code is. We know that we have the part in stock, and they're able to bring it in, and we can do the repair quickly. But like you mentioned, we still get to plug into the trucks. So if you don't know 100% what's going on, then yes, there's whole systems of diagnostics that are plug into the truck to learn, and all the OEMs work really good with us to give us the background as to what those can mean also. So they have phone numbers we can call if we run into something that we haven't seen before. But our guys are usually pretty good at figuring out what the codes are and how the truck's reacting and what it needs done to get the truck repaired. Right.
Yeah. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't want you to undersell yourself here, because the technology, it connects everything here, but the dealer and the service side you have to put in a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of energy to be, number one, to be able to service that ecosystem. And I know that all the OEMs also have their dealer certification programs, and you got to meet this and that. I mean, there's a lot that you have to do to be able to work within that and make that process that smooth. It doesn't just happen because of the technology. You guys are doing a lot of the great investment work there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it's also sometimes you got to double work your efforts. So there's our own, internal computers and systems that sometimes don't interact well with the other systems. But you have human beings that got to go out to check in trucks. They have to, we actually take video of every truck that comes in to make sure that, any damage or anything that happens to the vehicle while it's in our possession is we know it's us, and we definitely take care of it. But if it wasn't, then we can go back to the video and show that what the issue was ahead of time. But then you got employees that upload all that data into the OEM systems and track all that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I even think about stuff like VMRS, where, you know what I mean? You got to use VMRS, right? That's something we talk a lot about with shops and service centers, right? And even that, those kind of things, which can seem straightforward, or basically it's complex. You got to get people to do it. You got to make sure you do it in a uniform way, especially with all the platforms and the data, and have a record. All that communication happens with the customer now too, so everyone's got to be on the same page. A lot going on there.
Yeah, communication for sure is key. That's probably the most important thing for our customers, is to be able to know what they need to do next. How long is that repair going to take? Is it something that the driver can sit there and wait for, or sometimes they have to get them a hotel or maybe get them a rental truck to make sure that load makes it there on time.
Right. Speaking of that too, because we have our audience of fleet managers. From your side of things, right? Is there anything communication-wise or even just process-wise, anything fleet managers should? Now, again, they're the customer, right? And anything they need. But is there anything that you would need from them, or any communication-wise, or anything that you'd like to see? Like, man, if we could get this kind of level of communication from our customers across the board, it would help out a lot. Is there anything you'd need from them as part of that relationship?
Well, for fleet managers, I highly recommend that no matter what dealership you're bringing your truck to, like you mentioned, we're certified with all of our rooftops. Make sure that they're involved with their OEM. Make sure that they're doing the quick express assessments or the uptimes, and make sure that that dealership's part of those programs, because you're going to get the highest level of service and communication. But communication is key. Right. So, one thing that we ask for the fleets is to make sure that they're, responding to us also. So you got a technician that's figured out what's wrong with the truck, and then we need approval to keep moving forward, and we don't want to have to pull your truck back out and maybe work on another one. To be able to do the fast back and forth communication is key to keeping that truck, its repairs getting done quickly.
Right, yeah, for sure. I love the express assessment. Preventive maintenance is probably fun too. Have a record of it, know what you've done, and when you've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, have that at your fingertips, so that if sometimes a case that you have a warranty that we're not familiar, that you just put out a starter on that went bad, right, to be able to send us that invoice quickly, and then we're able to process that as a warranty claim.
Yeah, that's right. Huge topic, especially on the service side, of just having that service information. It's one thing to have the warranty, but then the other thing to actually prove that you have it and be able to have the paper trail to support it, rather than open a case and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, especially if you just, in a fleet's case, they might have installed that starter themselves, so they just bought the starter from a different dealership, and it's not tied directly to that truck, so we got no way to tell in our systems that it was tied to that truck. So
yeah,
having that receipt makes a big difference.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, the receipt, or then the whatever they did, that's maybe just in a file cabinet somewhere, which doesn't help. I know how that goes. Let's switch gears a little bit here, because you have the truck sales side as well. And I know we were talking a little earlier, and what makes you unique is you have a good amount of stock and inventory on the lot as well, where in the truck world, traditionally it's spec, fleet spec, right? This is the spec I need for my application. What do you see in your customers that gives you that confidence of being able to carry kind of a dealer spec that meets applications, and how does that work with truck technology that's always evolving?
So I feel we more specialize in owner-operator trucks, so guys with smaller fleets and individual trucks. So we have a lot of one-off customers, and I think we've come up with a pretty good spec. One of our sales managers actually used to be a technician.
Okay.
So he has a background in what things go right and wrong when it comes to the service side of the trucks, and definitely recommends certain components over others to make sure that they're the best for the customer and have the most longevity to them.
Sure.
And he's real proud at all the different parts he's picked on that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we carry a pretty universal spec, a couple different versions of it that work for a lot of customers. And that, I believe that's one of the keys, is for us to have the stock trucks ready to go on the ground when the customers need them. So we're able to sell them quickly and keep their businesses rolling.
Right, yeah, because you can wait a while for a truck if you're speccing yourself. And it's interesting, it seems that the trucks you sell then too, if you're earning the service business then from the customer, you kind of know what might be coming in, right? It kind of gives, it's almost that kind of a similar to kind of a fleet view. When you have a common spec, you kind of know what's coming in. This is a truck we sold it off stock. We know what the components are. Just kind of gives you a leg up in that service turn time, I imagine.
So when it comes to getting the truck to the customer with a truck that they really want, so yeah, we can actually have a truck that maybe we're going to stock,
right? But
the customer wanted something a little bit different,
right?
So sometimes we're able to adjust those specs,
right,
before the truck's produced, and give a little quicker lead time for the customer to get the truck that they actually wanted.
So you mentioned the investment in EV, you got the investment in natural gas, you got a lot going on. You're running a body shop as well on the heavy duty side. You're working on the sales and service side. What do you see in the next 5 years, right? Where do you think the industry is going, and how do you position young trucks to be able to serve that?
So the next 5 years is going to be really interesting. Not to get political, but if we get into the EVs and the mandates that are coming ahead, really it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out,
right,
government-wise, and whether or not anybody's going to blink, because I think the electric motors are probably the best propulsion for a truck that there is.
Yeah.
But the batteries behind them it's just not enough power for a truck to do what it needs to for a duty cycle.
Right. The range.
So it ought to be interesting to see if the government and where we're heading sticks with that. And if it does, you're probably going to actually see a lot more used trucks on the road, which might increase the amount of service that's needed to be done for them. It's going to be really interesting to see in the next 5 years what direction we really are heading. And our trucks today are very, the diesel trucks are very clean. Matter of fact, one of the things I tell a lot of people that, have you noticed that there's not black smoke coming out of the tailpipes of trucks? And,
right.
And in big cities, they do such a good job of cleaning air. It's actually cleaner air coming out of the stack than went into the truck.
Right. So just a little background, just because I actually recently got a crash course in this. Just on the regulation side, there's EPA regulations, and a new round of those are coming in 27 with Model 27 year engines, or going into the year 27, right? So 26. Going into 27, the engines that come out there have to be certified in a specific way. They're going to require longer warranties to be sold with those. They make more stringent emissions regulations. And then, California, to your point, is driving a lot of this with advanced clean fleet and advanced clean truck regulations, which are two different regulations. One regulates the customer buying the truck, and another regulates someone like yourself in California as a dealership or OEMs in terms of what you can sell to some degree. And then there's different levels of fleet makeups as to what I can buy. Again, California kind of here's its own drum in a lot of ways. That market has definitely been affected, but there are some interesting potential impact across other states. You look at something like New York, that it hasn't adopted CARB yet, but it says that it's interested in doing that. We're in Ohio, which I think is right now is pretty. It's not on the list of ones that are considering CARB that I've seen. But, if any states around us do, that could potentially impact fleets here. And it's not just in that state. It's also trucks operating in the state, right? So, yeah, there are a lot of interesting things that are going on. To your point, too, and we talk a lot about this on the fleet equipment side, OEMs make investments in R&D and technology. Dealer and service providers like yourself make big investments in things. So to some degree, this is happening and it's rolling down the road. At what rate and to what regulation? Yeah, definitely an interesting, environment we're in right now in terms of truck technology.
Definitely interesting times. You mentioned that there's going to be another huge EPA change here coming up. I believe most everybody's expecting a huge pre-buy. It kind of takes me back to 06 to 07. It's probably a good year where there's a huge pre-buy ahead of time. One thing that's going to be interesting is economically right now we're not really bustling. So interest rates are high, diesel prices aren't low, and spot rates are down. So it would be interesting to see if fleets are willing to invest and customers are willing to invest in doing a big pre-buy. But unfortunately, when you're doing that big of a change in emissions, it's a lot of technology, it's a lot of money, it makes the truck much more expensive. So it's a huge jump for our customers to have to take between those emissions changes.
Right. Yeah. Warranty, I believe, because I just talked about this here a couple days ago. Warranties will jump to 500,000 miles or 8 years. Which is, I mean, you know, and you know better than I would, in a fleet turn cycle, now in a normal time, I guess pre-pandemic and post-pandemic are different turn cycles, right? That's still a good amount of cost increase. I mean, that's an extended warranty almost baked into the base price now that has to be offered for EPA certification for these engines, right? And so, yeah, just that idea of, okay, well, fleets and customers that have to absorb that price in there, what does that mean to the secondary market then? Yeah, to your point, the question on how regulations will impact the secondary market as well then too, of what I can sell in the secondary market 5 years from now, right, will be super interesting. But, you know, going back to it too, just it's really interesting to me the way that you've positioned the company, and you have all these investments in those areas so that no matter where it kind of goes, you're set up to be able to service that.
You know, that's the plan. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, we really try to look ahead to see what the newest, latest, and greatest technologies are out there, and we want to be ahead of it so that no matter which direction we head, we're there and we're prepared for whatever customers' needs and any kind of technology or any kind of fuel that's coming in the future.